From the very first moment a child is born, we start feeding him poisons. Ambition, achievement, success, richness, name, fame. We start poisoning his sources of being. We give great attention. 25 years are wasted in giving a poisonous education to children. Now, I grew up in the modern school system, and I totally get this. And I want to be successful and have money and do all these things. Now, as I've had a little bit of that, not a lot by any means, and still have goals and all that, I turned more to philosophy as a way to make sure I'm not becoming too obsessive, make sure I'm enjoying the moment now, spending time with my family, not working too much, do all these things, because it's always a counterbalance. You always have to kind of keep yourself in check, especially when you have that type A entrepreneurial, want to get shit done type of personality the way I do. Now, the other way I try to align this is to make sure that I have really good goals in place for how I want to live my life, what I want to use money for, and what I'm actually trying to achieve, during this time I'm on this planet to make the world a better place. And so putting out content, writing, doing things like that is important to me. I enjoy it. And I also think it can make a difference, even if it's a small difference. Now, as it applies to money, I want to have first security for my family and not be beholden to any tyrannical government or any of the nonsense that's going on. If you look at 2020, we see just how precarious that situation actually is. So for me, it's very important to have that security as we move into our uncertain future. It's a shame that we do indoctrinate kids this way. And a lot of kids are growing up literally with social media, to which they show the suicides are at all-time highs. They have a harder time, especially girls have a harder time than boys, mostly because video games are an outlet for boys, whereas girls usually go on social media more so, and it just warps their mind. We're going to see some very major reckonings coming in the future for the future generations. Not only are they sick at a 50% obesity rate for most Americans today, and a 1 in 3 children being obese, which those numbers are going to keep rising, we're going to see a health crisis of both physical and mental issues that are going to just keep swelling to the point of we might have this polarized society where you have healthy on this side and you have sick and distraught and disrupted on this side. And it's like very scary what that looks like. It's very scary for my son's generation. A lot of people have predicted that we will have a crumbling of governments. We'll move to small, decentralized city-states. In the case of the book, The Sovereign Individual and The Fourth Turning have predicted things like this to come. As it goes with everything, nuance is the answer. Nuance of how much success, how much is enough, what you're pursuing, how you use that money. Are you using that money to buy fancy things that don't fulfill you and you're constantly getting that hedonic drip so that you can impress people you don't really know to post pictures on Instagram and then not being aware that that's destroying your psyche and your happiness? Or are you using money to buy security, to buy freedom, to buy back your time? In fact, I've had my time mostly in my own grasp for about 13 years now being an entrepreneur. A lot of people still don't have that. Like, I get it. We have responsibilities. What's crazy to me is that people give away their time to get money and they don't really like doing it, but they just kind of accept it. It's the price they have to pay. Then they buy things that usually have payments or they go in debt that have reoccurring ongoing expenses and payments so that they are basically a slave to their income. It's crazy, right? You're like, I'm already giving away my time and my freedom and I have to kind of be at a place at a certain time. But then I'm going to buy things that make me more stuck on that hedonic hamster wheel. Isn't that insane? Now listen, you've done it. You might be doing it now. I've done it. I still do certain things. Having a mortgage and buying this house in the country and all these things that has benefits, but also has lots of cons. I'm aware of these things. I'm not going to tell myself some fairy tale story because I want to feel good about my purchase or whatever. I'm aware of these things and I made a calculated decision. And if we move or sell, that will be a calculated decision again. And I'll have learned something from the process most likely. And you do this forever. Be aware of what's going on. Be aware of the different things in your environment and how they affect you and how they might be mentally affecting you for the negative. And then mitigate them. Learn, grow, evolve, and constantly adapt. The worst part about all this as we raise young children and as we get into this I must achieve mindset and this competitive mindset and we give away our freedoms and our time and we basically become debt slaves and time slaves and responsibility slaves. The worst part is most people don't evolve out of it. They're not aware of it. And so they just go from one addiction to the next. One responsibility, one enslavement to the next. And that's the thing that irks me the most. Because if you don't have your time in your 100% control, so you can go anywhere you want, do anything you want, no matter what, if you don't have that first, for me, that's a prerequisite. All humans want autonomy. It's the fundamental human drive. No human likes being held down or told what to do. They want control. We all want control of our time and what we do with our time. So if you don't have that, then that should be your primary goal to figure out. Maybe that means selling some of those things that are just a drain. Maybe that means living more simply. Maybe that means downsizing. Get this idea that if you downsize, it's somehow bad or you're regressing. That's nonsense. And I'm going to tell you exactly what I'm going to do. We're probably going to sell this house. We've been here about a year. It's a really big house, 10 acres, out in the country. It has a lot of pros, a lot of great things. And for the pandemic, it was great. But we all like to be closer to the city. We all like to be closer to our friends. It does feel isolating at times. There is a big mortgage payment. There is a high tax bill because of the 10 acres. And I would much rather have a smaller 1 acre parcel that has a lot of the same benefits that we have out here while also being 30 minutes closer to the city. And so we're going to sell this. And I have absolutely no qualms about it. I'm actually excited to do it because I have some plans to which I feel more comfortable investing, whereas I haven't felt comfortable investing here because I've just been uncertain about how long I want to stay here. But now the next place, I want to get an acre and really kind of commit to being there for a while, and then also being able to travel and do other things and not have such a big burden of mortgage and just huge house to upkeep. So for me, I'd rather have a vacation home somewhere and this house, or maybe just stay in Airbnbs and be able to travel rather than having one big house with a huge mortgage where all my money goes. Some people would say this is downsizing. For me, this is just being more flexible. This is actually upsizing in our lifestyle. Be conscious of the things that you give up and you commit to and the things you take on, because they end up owning you. They end up trapping you. They end up enslaving you. And that's why they say your stuff owns you. I can tell you, as somebody who's moved 10 plus times in my life, and every time I'm like, I'm never doing that again. And I still do it. And every time I do, I throw away a bunch of stuff and I sell a bunch of stuff and I still have stuff. Every single time I'm like, wow, this stuff does own me. I got to move it. I got to store it. I got to transport it. I got to upkeep it. I got to clean it. I got to pay for it. Like, it's insane. So being aware of your things and your time and your focus and your attention and how there's a trade-off and how there's a price and how you could maybe live a better, simpler life and actually be more happy and fulfilled. Maybe, I don't know, maybe. But being aware, questioning, and not just trying to support decisions you've made with confirmation bias, which I think is the most toxic thing that comes naturally to our species, and it's the reason for everything that's wrong in the world for the most part. Confirmation bias takes the cake. It's why we have wars. It's why we have things like racism. I mean, confirmation bias is what? Tribalism, politics, divisiveness. It's why we have everything. It's like people convince themselves of certain things, and they convince themselves they're the hero and they're right and everyone else is wrong, and it leads to bad behavior. It's just like at the root of everything. So be aware of that. Be aware and constantly evolve. Subscribe for more videos every single day, and I'll see you in the next one.